We're going to look at sizing and alignment in Flexbox. So I have two web pages open right now. This is our beginning web page. Notice how we have a nav bar up at the top with 3 links and 1 logo. We have our content that is Come Explore Tahoe. We have a footer with 3 vertical divs. When we're finished, changes a little bit. Notice the main thing is we have the 3 horizontal divs in the footer with a copyright being larger than the other 2 and the text being centered. Also notice in the nav when we're finished, we have a little bit of spacing between the different nav links over here and still the logo on the left. So let's go ahead and go back to the one we're beginning with. We're going to open that in our text editor, our Sublime text. Push that up a little bit so we can see it better. I'm going to file open 2 things from our textbook files. I'm on the desktop. And we're in a folder called Flexbox Size and Alignment. We're going to open the index page, which is our HTML. You'll notice in there, inside of our body, which is information that's inside our browser, we have an unordered list, which is our nav bar across the top, and we have 4 list items in it. 1 for the logo, 1 for the hikes, 1 for the contact, and 1 for the sign up. We have our Come Explore Tahoe in the middle of our page, which is our text content right now. And then down at the bottom in the footer, notice we have 3 divs, an address, a copyright, and a social media links. And that's down here. And it's all stacked vertically at the beginning of our exercise. We also have a style sheet they've given us. Let's open that up as well. That's in the CSS folder. We'll use the main. Remember, normalize is just to take out spacing or any weird stuff the browser would put in. We're not going to edit that one. We're going to edit main.css. In that, you'll notice we have some things that are working on custom classes. Remember, a custom class is something that has a dot and a name in front of it. Notice some of them are a dot with a name and list items inside. So since we have a nav bar one, let's look at our HTML. Notice we have a custom class of nav bar. Also, we have a .navbar li. That means it would affect all the LIs inside the navbar class. We also have a footer, and we have 3 classes inside there: address, copyright, and social. There's our footer, and it's not a class. That's just a semantic HTML5 tag that specifies the footer area. You'll notice it has the div. We're not working on the classes yet. This is for the footer, and this is for each of the individual divs, but it'll make all 3 divs the same thing. We'll add some custom classes to the footer later in our exercise. So let's go back and look at our web page. What we want to do first is we want to make all of the items, the list items, the LIs, and the nav bar fill this whole area of the nav bar with no space in it, and have pretty much the same amount of extra space. But some may seem like they have extra space because the content, the type inside of each of these LIs is what's going to determine the real size, but then we'll get some extra space using a flex grow declaration. So let's go ahead and make these all space out all the way across the flex container for the nav bar. Let's go to our CSS. And let's do it to the nav bar, but we have to do it to the nav bar LI. That means for each list item in the nav bar, we're going to give it a flex grow. I'm going to punch in right above where it says color white. I'm going to go flex, F-L-E-X, dash grow. Put your colon in because this is a new CSS declaration inside this rule. Give it a space. And put 1 in. And that'll give an equal amount of space into each one of those list items. Save that. Let's go back to our web page, and if we refresh, that flex grow grew each one of the LI items inside the nav bar to have just about the same amount of extra space. Let's go ahead and add another link into our nav bar. Let's go back to our HTML page in our text editor in Sublime Text. Go to index.html. We're going to put another text link in between the hikes and excursions and the contact. So here's hikes and excursions. Punch in after the closing LI tag. And we're going to put a new LI, which is a list item, and put about. Actually, we need to put a class on it first. So LI, still with your brackets open, put a class in, which equals, put your double quotes, call the class about, because we already have that in our CSS. Close your brackets for opening LI tag. Put the type in that you'll see in the browser window and just put about. And then close your LI with a bracket / LI. And let's save that. And notice we have an about in there. So what we want to play with right now is, you notice each one of these have about the same amount of extra space after them from the flex grow 1. Let's play around with the about and give it a flex grow of 2 to make the about have twice the amount of extra space here as the original ones have. So let's go to our CSS in our text editor. They knew we were going to do this, so they already gave us the .navbar.about CSS rule. Let's punch in and put a new declaration above background. And once again, we're going to use flex grow to control the horizontal width of each list item. But this one, we're only going to control the list item for about. Everything's at a flex grow of 1 in the nav bar right now. We want to make the about twice as wide by using a flex grow 2. Flex-grow. Put a 2 in there and close your declaration, remember, with the semicolon. Save that, and let's come back and check that in our browser. You notice that the about has twice the amount of extra space as everything else does, because the logo, the hikes, the contact, and sign up are all working off of a flex grow 1, while the about's using the flex grow 2 in the CSS. You can see that. And the reason everything else is using a flex grow 1, because it says for nav bar in each list item, use a flex grow 1. But then we overrode that for the nav bar and about by putting a flex grow 2 right there, which made it twice as wide. All right, that was just for demonstration that you can. Let's go to a flex grow 4 for the about and just look at that while we're here. We're going to take that out in the long run, but let's look at it. So we have a flex grow 4 in the about. Let's save that. Go to the web page and refresh. You notice how that gives the about that's much more horizontal space. We're going to keep them all actually equal, so I'm going to take out the flex grow from the about and just let it be the flex grow for all the list items to be the same right now. That was just to demonstrate how flex grow can work with things. So we're going to go to .navbar.about in our CSS, main.css. And we're going to take the flex grow 4 out because we really don't want that. We just wanted to do that to show you how flex grow could work amongst several different CSS rules. Save that. Go back to our web page. All right, so everything's the same now. So we're going to leave the nav bar for a little while. We'll come back to it to work on it. This is what we're going to end up with, remember. Let's work on our footer now. Let's get the divs in the footer to be all horizontal instead of stacked vertically like we have in the starting of our exercise. So that's pretty easy to do. We can just come over here to our footer tag and we can say display flex. So let's do that and see what we get. Let's go to our CSS in our text editor. And where it says footer, right near the bottom here on line about 38, the way I've coded mine, I'm going to push this up and scroll so you can see it a little bit better. So in the footer, that's a HTML5 semantic container name. So we're going to go in there and right above border, we're going to punch in there. I'm going to hit return and click back there. And I'm going to say display colon flex. So display colon. Then I'm going to put the value in of flex. And remember to put your semicolon at the end of that declaration. So I'm going to save that. Refresh that. So now we basically have all of our footer information now going horizontal instead of vertical. But if you look at this one, you'll notice it's spread out throughout the whole width of the footer or the flex container, which is the gray area. So what we want to do is we're going to come back in here and work with the sizes of these. So let's go into the footer area. But we're going to work on each one of the divs. Since this footer div, it's going to affect all 3 of the divs where it says footer div, the CSS rule at the end of our style sheet. We're going to put a flex grow 1 above the border. So we'll put our cursor right before border, hit return to punch in, then I'm going to click with my mouse up above, and I'm going to put a flex grow of 1 there. Put your colon in. If you don't put a flex grow of 1, it's going to assume natively that everything's a flex grow of 0 if you don't type anything in. Save that, go back to our web page, refresh. All right, so now we have all of this set up, but look at our finished one and you'll notice that the copyright is really wide and the address and the social media links are not really wide. So let's play around with that a little bit in our CSS. Let's come down and punch in after the closing bracket of the footer div. We're going to add a new CSS rule to our style sheet. And we're going to call this one footer social. So we're going to go footer. And remember over here in our HTML page, these are in divs in our footer. They all have names. So we can use a custom class of address, custom class of copyright, and a custom class of social. So we're going to write one for footer.social. to affect the one at the right of our footer. Put your brackets in. Let's flex grow that one to 0 because everything's at a 1, but we're going to tell the social to flex grow to 0, which means it's only going to have enough space for the text content in it. Flex grow and go 0 for the social. Put a semicolon in and let's save that. Go back and refresh. And this is the one we're working on right here where they're all equal. We'll refresh. It didn't change anything. Let's see what we did wrong. Social. Did we spell something wrong? Yep, I knew it. Misspelled social. If you misspell the custom class, it will not work. Social. One or more wrong characters can ruin your day. Let's save that again. And refresh. And you'll notice that this one has no real extra spacing. The copyright has some extra spacing, but the problem is the address does too. Let's put the copyright to a flex grow of 1 and see if that fixes it. So we'll come down here under the rule for footer.social, and go footer.copyright. Put your brackets in, and then put a flex grow 1 there. But you need a dash between flex and grow. Give that a colon, give it a space, put a 1 in, make sure you have a semicolon at the end of your declaration. Save that and refresh. All right, let's see what I did not get right. Copyright, flex grow 1. I know what'll solve that. Let's get the flex grow out of the div. That's giving everything the same. That's keeping that address one that wide. So let's get the flex grow out of the div. Save that. Boom. So that's looking better. We have the address, which has a native flex grow of 0. We have the social, which has a declared flex grow of 0. And we have a copyright of a flex grow 1. The problem now is the copyright text is, unlike our finished one, it's sitting over on the left. So let's go back into our CSS for our our footer copyright. And under the flex grow, let's align the text by going text-align center. Colon, center. Let's refresh that. All right, so we're on our way to sizing and aligning our nav and our footer in our flex.